Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. I'm going to give it just a minute to connect. Look at, you got a different screen. No slides tonight. I'm going to go at this as if it really is like a first session of therapy that I'm doing with somebody, because for some of you in this group, you're moving on to complete the rest of the lesson. So you're going to complete 10 with me. And so I want to teach this so that it benefits those people. For those of you who are not, or you're just here out of curiosity, or you're just to learn, but now is not the right time for you, know that, hey, Angela, know that this is what it looks like when you work with me, okay? So I'm gonna go, no slides. We're just gonna roll with what it would look like. Hello, hi, Randy. Sometimes it shows me a name, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, so let me get things set up here so I've got what I need. Okay, so first thing I want to say is I've got 500 sticky notes in front of me because that's how I roll when I don't have slides to guide. New workbook. I'm hoping that you guys got to see that I posted it earlier. I just wanted to make it a little more awesome than what was already in the guide that you, or in the workbook you guys already had for the 4 days. What was different is that I put in there the habit and symptom tracker, and I also put in additional homework checkoff sheets so that you have those. So let's just jump right in. When I start a therapy session or a package with somebody, I always say that there's some housekeeping stuff first. And these are things that I go over to teach you, but I don't ever do it again, okay? So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is the concept of the spot. Some of you guys know where the spot is. For my people who are moving forward, it's very important that you know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the spot or home base or speed bump. You know, when I work with kiddos, they don't get it, but if I say speed bump, they can certainly find it. So on my little guy here, I have my silly putty, which I love to teach with. So this is the tongue, you guys, and the spot is going, I have a chopstick here somewhere. The spot is going to be the bump or the incisive papilla behind your top front teeth. So this, the black indicates where the tip of the tongue is going to go. The pink is going to be the middle of the tongue. The blue is going to be the back of the tongue. Really, once you get successful with the middle of the tongue being up, the back of the tongue is going to kind of come with it. But let's talk about the spot there for a minute. If you put your tongue up to the spot, so first you have to find that bump, okay? So feel around there for a minute. Some people it's more pronounced than others, okay? You can always take a picture and email it to me, and I can color it in and say, here's where I see the incisive papilla. The downside is that spot might not be your spot, and here's why. When you put your tongue to the roof of your mouth and you put it on that spot, if it's pushing on anything, you need to back it up just a smidge, which gives you a new spot, which is a little bit off of the incisive papilla. So when you put your tongue up there, you kind of have to just tune into it for a while. My clients sometimes take a good handful of days before they really feel like they've got it dialed in. So when I put my tongue up on the spot, it doesn't create pressure anywhere. So in the case of if you have resting tongue posture that's resting, pushing forward, you got to back that puppy up, okay? Or else you're going to have buck teeth that stick out like this, and they're going to continue to do that no matter how many times you get them straightened, okay? So that remember that resting tongue posture is more powerful than the swallow. I had somebody yet again today referred to me by an orthodontist to correct a tongue thrust. And I had to break the news to mom and daughter that the tongue thrust is a symptom. It's a sign of a bigger problem. And the fact that she was 100% mouth breather, had open mouth resting posture. The lips are parted. Once you part the lips, guys, you lose strength. So that's when the teeth start to stick out. So we got to really pay attention to that tongue posture. So back to the spot. So tune in to how it feels when you put your tongue on the spot. If you're pushing on teeth, you have got to make some adjustments to get that off of there. Last night I talked about how not everybody wants to do an expansion, which means our mouth is not ideal. And that's okay because we don't live in a perfect world and I don't work with perfect clients. In my case, my tongue is bigger than my arch. So I have to use my tongue like horseshoe to horseshoe. Okay, so horseshoe being the roof of your mouth, horseshoe being your tongue. And I have to pull the sides of my tongue in so that I'm creating a gasket right inside the teeth. We're not pushing on the teeth or else pretty soon you're going to kick them out and you're going to have an open bite. So you have to get comfortable, if you will. It takes a little bit of time to get the sides of the tongue in. And you guys put that extra tongue up in the roof of the mouth because clearly if you're narrow like I am, you're going to be high. And so you're going to be able to get the tongue in the roof of the mouth. I hope that makes sense. So back to the spot. Tongue needs to live in the roof of the mouth like this. You're creating a Tupperware seal. It's a gasket. I always tell kiddos, if mom took frosting and ran it around the edge of your tongue and then glued it in the roof of the mouth, that's what we need, okay? So that's the concept of this spot. Again, take some time to figure it out. If you're moving on in therapy with me, I call that home base. I call that sticking your tongue there like a lawn dart, like Velcro, whatever. Every single thing that you do through now and the rest of therapy is going to be tongue on the spot. So take the time to figure out where is the right spot. If not, email me a picture. And like I said, I will color the incisive papilla, but that doesn't give you a whole lot of information if when you put your tongue on the spot that it pushes any direction, okay? So we don't want that. I think I beat that one to death. Let's see what's next. Practice expectations. So this is weird to me that I do this now. And a few years ago, I had to start because I had some lovely ladies who decided that they were going to march to the beat of their own drum, which doesn't work in my practice. They wanted to do no exercises throughout the week and then do them, for 2 hours on Saturday. That's not how we do bicep curls. That's not how we do myofunctional therapy. So I started talking about practice expectations so that I can set that expectation when we start, and then you know what's expected for success. So if you do what I teach you, you're going to be successful. If you do more, you're going to have better results. And if you do less, then you're going to get nothing. Every single client that I work with live one-on-one, when I meet with them, the very first thing I say is, what grade would you give yourself since I saw you last? What grade would you give yourself for doing therapy? And the reason that I do that is A, so you have to own it, and B, so I can cover my hiney. If you come back to me and you say, I'm really frustrated, I'm not getting anywhere with therapy, I can say, well, when you're bringing your D game, what do you expect? So the nice thing with how I teach and what I teach, you can't overdo it, okay? With the exception of somebody with jaw concerns, and we'll talk about that here in just a sec. But practice expectations. Slow and steady wins the race, you guys. I talked about how long it's going to take you every day, and all you have to do is reprioritize a little bit of time, and you're going to be able to fit it in. You can't save it for big, like for the weekend, okay? Next, when I work with kiddos, I teach a code word. I obviously don't do that when I work with adults, but I like to touch on it so that you can think about anything that will help you with awareness. I can teach you stuff till the cows come home, but if the lights are on and nobody's home and you're not thinking about what you're doing, you're not thinking about your tongue posture or the fact that your mouth is hanging open, it gets really hard. So I Like I said, with kiddos, I use a code word. With adults, I say anything that's going to cue you into what's going on. So that can be anytime your spouse or significant other says your name and it drives you crazy the way they say it, you can say, where's my tongue? Is my tongue on the spot? We start with that focus. Remember, there's 4 goals of therapy: correct tongue posture, correct mouth posture, nasal breathing, and swallow correct and normalized. And so correct tongue posture, is the whole tongue in the roof of the mouth, tip to tail. But you can't start by every time your sweetie says your name and it just makes your skin crawl. You can't overwhelm yourself by thinking, okay, tip of the tongue and middle of the tongue, and what are my teeth doing, and what are my lips doing, and what's my posture like? One thing, sister, one thing at a time. Typically, that's tongue on the spot, especially if this is new to you. So, anything that draws attention, okay? For me, when I used to still practice dental hygiene, it was the songs on the radio. Of course, I work from home now, so I never hear music on the radio, but it was the same stupid country song at the top of every hour. And every time Blake Shelton came on, I thought, my tongue is on the spot. So anything that helps you. Again, for me, there's a newscaster here on our news that reminds me of a character from the Addams Family. So every time I see him, I think, oh, what am I doing? What's my mouth doing? What's my tongue doing? So you do you figure out what works. I have some clients who use something on their phone that dings quietly every 30 minutes. And these people are kind of like type A plus people. They really want to know. So the one person that I'm thinking of, she has this timer on her phone. It goes off during daytime hours, like 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. every 30 minutes. And it just has a gentle ding. And at that time, she just makes a tally mark. How many times in those 12 hours that it went off and my tongue was on the spot. So you can do that if you want to get that scientific. Another thing that I teach, I forgot to grab it, so let me get it here. Another thing that I put in my kits when I work with clients is these colored dots. These are great. It seems a little bit weird, and I have a lot of adults who don't do it at first, and that's totally fine, but when they're not improving, I make them do it. But you guys, if you get some of these, they're stickers, so please remember, they'll stick to your paint, they'll stick to your wallpaper. When I go to my granddaughter's house, there's dots everywhere, so just put them on a sticky note so that it's not going to ruin something. But these are helpful. Every time you see a dot, put it by your toothbrush, put it on the fridge handle, on the microwave handle, anything that's going to help. And again, you don't have to do it right off the bat, but you can do it if you're struggling. Okay, so that takes care of that. Next, so one of the reasons that I wanted to make you the new workbook is so that you had a habit and symptom tracker. This, I think, is, for some people, it's a Bible. It's the Holy Grail. They love it. For other people, it's just another piece of paper. So if you're somebody who doesn't like to fill things out, then perhaps you don't want to do this, but I also think it's going to be hard for you to chart your success. And what I mean by that is, in today's busy day and age, a lot of us have symptoms that are just our normal. And we have no idea if they're getting better unless we journal about them. I have shared with you guys that I'm a migraine sufferer, and I go through fits where I just feel like I have a migraine all the time. But the only reason that I know that I really truly only have a couple clusters of them a year is because I put them on the calendar. So I document them, and then I go back and I say, oh, haven't had one since July, and I had 3 from June till middle of July, and then I'll have nothing for 9 months. So it helps. So the reason I designed this so that you have lots of areas to document. So if you look at your habit and symptom tracker, at the top it says stomach pain or digestive issues. And then there's other spots to write other. So if it's acid reflux, you can break down the digestive issues. Digestive issues are one of the biggest things that my clients have resolution from. And the reason I wanted to make this really good, and I have shared this story a lot before, but my biggest digestive case that I've ever worked with was a 10-year-old girl who had been on adult dose prescription medicine for heartburn. You're welcome, Angela. Anyhow, she had been on adult dose reflux medicine since they could remember. Mom was a nurse. 10-year-old little girl was eating half a bottle a day of antacids, and mom knew that it was terrible for her. And so their goal for therapy was only to get off of the antacids, the half a bottle. They weren't even looking forward to getting off the medicine. And so that little girl, that little 10-year-old, kept track of her symptom tracker for me like a champ. And so rather than saying digestive issues, so if you guys say, let's use acid reflux as an example, put it in other. Okay, so make a note there, put it in other, and rather than saying yes or no, I think it's most useful to you to give it a score. 10 being awful and 1 being non-existent or pretty close to none. What that little girl did for me, I started therapy with her in July, and for the first few sessions that I saw her, I would say, so how's the heartburn? And she'd be like, it's the same. And I quit asking her eventually. And then one day in December, I said, how's your heartburn? And she said, it's gone. I said, it's gone? And she said, I'm off my meds. So in that period of time, from me stopping asking her till December, she was able to produce her habit and symptom tracker for me. I was able to go back and extrapolate and see how it changed. And I was mind blown. And her mom still talks about her success and, doing therapy with me to this day. But it makes me so happy that I helped her change that. That was life-changing for her. And so I think the habit and symptom tracker is so helpful if you use it as a tool. When she filled it out, she would put, 8 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 1 out of 10. And we could see it go up and down like that. And then eventually I started to see that she had acid reflux 4 out of 7 days, and then it was 1 out of 7 days, and then it was 1 out of 14 days, and so we got to see it get better. And so that's why I think if you really want to monitor how you improve, if you fill this out, monitor your breathing, monitor your congestion, anything. People track headaches, people track sleep with this for me. I'm trying to think of what else. Those are the biggest things. Sleep quality. I've had people track, how long it takes them to get off their allergy meds. So there's plenty of room to make it be a useful tool for you. You will also see that at the very bottom, it says tongue on the spot, nasal breathing, mouth closed, lips sealed, and middle of the tongue. So these are what I call getting my numbers or getting your numbers. So when I work with somebody at the end of every session, we're monitoring progress. I monitor progress by checking skills assessments at the beginning of the session to make sure that you can do what I've taught you and asked you to do. And then at the end, I get your numbers. And that is a percentage. So obviously you got to make sure percentages are in your brain. I can't use this with children because they constantly say, 2.5%, 98.285%, it's useless, but with adults, I obviously use it. What I'm looking to track is percentage of time that tongue is on the spot. Daytime hours, you guys, okay? And the reason being is because who knows what's going on at night, and that's the hardest thing to fix, so we don't worry about that now. So daytime hours, what percentage of time is tongue on the spot, the correct spot. So if you have had your tongue on the spot for a long time, but now I just taught you that you've got it in the wrong spot and you need to scoot it back a skosh, it's not in the right spot, okay? So give yourself a 0. Nasal breathing. What percentage of the day are you nasal breathing? What percentage of the day is your mouth closed? This is aside from eating and talking, okay? So if you should have your mouth closed and your tongue up and be breathing through your snout, that's what I'm talking about, okay? And then last, middle of the tongue. Tip of the tongue, middle of the tongue. If you have a tongue tie or low resting tongue posture, it's either doing this or it's doing this. So right now we're focused on this. You're probably going to be 0 here or pretty close. A lot of people will say, well, yeah, I do have that on the roof of my mouth. But then they find out when we get further down in therapy that they're not. So all you can do is find out. When I place my tongue on the spot, it's as if I'm rolling the air out of a bread sack, okay? Tongue goes on the spot and the rest of the tongue goes up, just as if I was trying to get the air out of a bag. Okay, that was a lot to say about the habit and symptom tracker. The other piece of paper that is in the book is what I call the homework sheet, okay? Your version is different than the version that I'm showing you here, so just know that yours is a little fancier, and that's for a reason. This is the homework sheet. This is where the magic happens and where you hold yourself accountable. So as I teach, I have my students, my clients, write down what the name of the exercise is and how much, how often. How you want to do it when you're learning in this type of setting is completely up to you. I like my students always have to learn the name, because when I say, hey, can you demonstrate, A, B, and C to me, they have to know what that is. But the only reason I have them write the name and how much, how often is because all of the other details, you probably already saw this, are in the instructions. So when I work one-on-one with a client, they get an email as soon as I hang up with them that gives them blow-by-blow details. So if you're not sure that you're doing it right, check the notes to see if it says mouth wide open or cheeks back, that kind of stuff. Because I never want my clients to wait until I see them the next time, because they perhaps might have wasted 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks doing it wrong. So that's what we write here. And then this is where you just check off, okay? And so what this is useful when I'm working with somebody one-on-one and I say, hey, how are you doing? And they look here and it's blank. They probably didn't do such a good job, but that's what this is for. Okay, so that's it as far as paperwork. I think now we're ready to dive in to what, actually, no, we're not. I see I have some more notes over here. So I told you 4 goals of therapy: tongue up, mouth closed, nasal breathing, swallow, correct, and normalize. Any of you doing this session, and then any of you moving forward, I will tell you this, you're going to hate me before you love me. And that's because you're starting a new workout routine and you're going to use muscles that you're not used to. That means tomorrow, if you do exercises tonight and you wake up and you've got tension back here, you've got a weird thing in your jaw, you're just tired, it's normal. If it wasn't there prior to doing Myo, then it's fine, okay? What to expect? Tiring, headaches. Some people, if you're a jaw person, if you've got jaw aches, remember you might have to take 2 days to do 1 day of work. I assign this. You want to do this, which is nothing, and you got to figure out you have to do something in between. There's not a perfect answer. I have lots of clients that are referred to me from TMJ specialists, and they just have to do what works for them. If I assign it 3 times a day and that's killing them, maybe they do it half as often or half as long, twice as often. It just depends, which means it takes us longer to get through therapy, and that's okay. And it takes them longer to get prepared for their frenectomy, and that's okay also. And then for anybody who's moving on, I want you to know that if you're struggling with something, don't sit and wonder if you're doing it right or wrong. Don't sit and wonder because you're wasting time. I don't want to see you, in session 2 and you find out that you've been doing suction and hold wrong or anything. So I always say, reach out to me. The people who are moving on will be in a private Facebook group with only other people who are doing it. So you can ask a question right there. That's my preference, is to ask it right in the Facebook group so that I can pop on and I can either record a video or I can do a Facebook Live and teach you again. So I think that answers that. Don't wait to ask questions. And then now I think we're ready to move on to the lesson. So There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 exercises that I'm going to teach. One of these exercises, because normally when people do one-on-one therapy with me, or if they do my full video Myo to go, they get a kit. And so I had to make sure that I wasn't doing exercises that obviously required you to have a kit. People who are moving on, there is a list in your full 10 lesson workbook that gives you a list of supplies, but they're silly things like a chopstick, a squirt bottle, a glass of water, a spoon, it just depends. But there is one exercise that I teach. I talked last night about passive and active exercises. It's the passive exercise. So I'm going to show you how I teach it to people with a kit. And then I'm going to give you a couple ideas to be able to do it without having a kit, because it's super important. Okay, so the first exercise that I teach you guys is called spot rub. Now that you've learned about the spot, you can probably imagine what spot rub is. It is the easiest exercise that I'm ever going to teach you. The whole point of spot rub is to just start waking up that vagus nerve ending. So the tongue is going to go to the spot, and it's just going to be little movements. You're not pushing, you're not doing anything, you're just doing little movements, either little circles or side to side, okay? I assign this 1 minute twice a day. This is one of few exercises that I want my clients to split up. Meanings, a lot of people tell me that it gets raw, like they've burned it with pizza or coffee. So I tell them that they can do it 30 seconds 4 times a day. That's fine. Most of the time, I never want my clients to split up their time, especially when they're doing that passive exercise, because doing something, if they do it up to an hour, if they split it into 10-minute segments, it's not as powerful or as successful, okay? So spot rub, when I do spot rub, looks like this. I'm just rubbing the bejesus out of that incisive papilla, okay? So that's it for spot rub. I teach spot rub with a sister exercise called peanut butter rub. If any of you have eaten peanut butter, you know that it sticks in the roof of your mouth. Peanut butter rub is an isometric press. It's a scrub. And if you're not working and you're not feeling it down here in these suprahyoid muscles, you're not doing it right, okay? So peanut butter rub starts with the tongue on the spot, and then you're going to be doing the movement as if you're scraping peanut butter out of the roof of the mouth. I say it's like the front third of the tongue, the front third of the palate, okay? I don't want you going all the way back, because we get to that after you've had your release. Clearly, you wouldn't be able to do it correctly now if you have a tie. But you're just doing it, just a short movement at the front. The notes say that you will use the tip of the tongue, rub the top of your mouth as if you're trying to rub away the peanut butter. This exercise should be very active and involve plenty of pressure. So one of the questions that I get when I teach peanut butter rub to my clients is, it says, or I guess one of their questions is, how far should I be open? And my answer is always, you have to figure that out. If I'm telling you, you have to scrub and push and scrub and push, and you're open so far that you're tiptoeing it, you're not pushing, you're not scrubbing. So you're gonna have to close down so you can get a scrub. So when I do peanut butter rub, you can see, and if on yourself, if you feel here, you're going to feel those muscles engage, okay? So I start with my tongue on the spot and I just scrub. Slow and steady. You're not trying to hurry through anything, which brings me to another point that I hadn't said already. It's really important as you do, whether you're doing just this lesson with me, whether you're moving on, you've got to do it correct, and you've got to do it with passion and purpose. Peanut butter rub, if you do this, that's just a big old spot rub. okay? You have to think about what I'm asking you to do. Is it activating any muscles? Is it hard? I've had one client, one exercise that he was doing it right and it just wasn't doing anything for him. Out of the hundreds of other people that I have helped, you will know that you're doing something. And so if you're doing it and it's not feeling like it's difficult, make sure you read your instructions to see that you're doing it right. And then when in doubt, slow down, okay? The next exercise is called fast clicks. And for a lot of people, it's called slower than hell clicks because they can't do it fast and do it right, okay? So that goes back to peanut butter rub. Make sure you're doing it right. Notice when I do spot rub, it doesn't matter how fast I'm doing it, but peanut butter rub, I'm slowed down, okay? That's it. So I teach those back to back. Then I teach fast clicks and TikToks. Fast clicks and TikToks is a 2-part exercise. So I teach it 2 minutes twice a day. So for the first minute, you're going to fast click, or better yet, you're going to correct click, okay? Correct clicking means chin stays still, and you're going to click slowly and correctly. I clearly can do it correct fast. So you do you, okay? You do your pace that's correct. If you have a tongue tie, if you have a significant tongue tie, that's going to be impossible to do this. So you try and minimize it as much as you can, okay? So the first minute, you fast click. The second minute, you're gonna add in the tick-tock, which is bringing the lips forward into like a big exaggerated pucker kiss. And then you're gonna click again. So that minute will look like this. When you're doing it, you've got to be doing it with purpose, and you have to really be pushing. I want you to be able to get that pucker as tight as a straw or a chopstick. Some people do this, and as tight as they can get those muscles, that leads to an incompetent lip when the lips aren't strong enough to stay together. So you want to really make sure. Cheeks back, you guys, this is myofunctional therapy. When you bring your cheeks back, I have people ask me if I get cheek injections, and I just tell them I do myofunctional therapy. So it's really great for you. Cheeks back. Okay. That is fast clicks and TikToks. If you can't click, if you're smacking, you have to figure out how to click. And suction and hold, which I'm going to do next, will also help. So that's why I teach those together, okay? So suction and hold, this is my benchmark, you guys. I have talked ad nauseum, whether it's in this training and my social media, any other trainings that I do, my blogs, that kind of stuff. My benchmark is 5 60-second suction and holds. And that's so that if you're having a frenectomy done and you're tipped back in the chair and you're nervous and potentially they're gassing you, you can still be successful, okay? I get kudos from providers every day about being prepared, okay? So suction and hold is my benchmark. But you have to have the correct suction. So the whole horseshoe needs to be up in the roof of the mouth. You've got to have that gasket, and then you're opening your mouth as far as you can. You might not be able to open very far. If you have a severe tie, like a lot of my clients do, perhaps you can only be open this far. But you have to do it and work at it because you've got to be able to get to that first piece of the release. And what I mean by that is the first stage. I talked yesterday about a severe tie having a 2-stage release, and I did an exam today on a kiddo in Europe that has a very severe tie. And it's so severe, all we can do is start working on the suction and hold. We're going to work on it for a few weeks to get so he can at least stay open a little bit so the doctor can see what is going on. So fuzzy targets don't have to be missed, right? And so in that case, we're doing the best we can to get the release, and then we're going to prepare like normal. So it's almost like we have to get this first one out of the way so that they can start moving. So if that's you, that's what I suggest, is you still work on it. But back to suction and hold. So tongue has to be in. No bingo wings, no hanging down. I showed you in the picture. I know we talked about it, and I'm going to show you mine. We don't want occlusal spillage, okay? So I don't want to see the tongue hanging down, and I want you to suction all the way back. So first, get your suction correct, and then worry about opening. So when I suction, this is what it looks like. You can see that everything is up with my tongue. And then I can feel it all the way back. So as you're doing it, that's what you're working towards. So to start there, I always have my clients just push the whole tongue like they're going to squish a piece of bread into the roof of the mouth, and then they create their suction from there. So they press, and then get their suction. So notice lesson 1 here, you're starting with 30 seconds. You're going to work up to that 5 minutes worth of holding, okay? If you can do more, if you're not continuing on with me and you have a frenectomy scheduled, or you're going to try and do it without myo, I would say work on that suction and hold. The other thing I think that is helpful for my clients and why they're so successful with suction and hold is they practice suction and hold in different positions rather than just sitting here. So laying on a couch, put their head off the edge of the bed, put it on a pillow. Sometimes they just even lean back, kind of like in a recliner, anything that's different, because when the doctor gets you numb, tips you back in the chair, it's going to change that position, and that's really, really helpful. The oldest person that I have sent for a frenectomy is 79. It wasn't easy. She had a real big struggle. She had to have a 2-stage release, but it was way different. When we did her first frenectomy, she really struggled when she got laid back. She said everything changed. And so after some powwow with some of my biggest providers in the US, it was like, you know what? If we had them practice this in a different position, it's going to be really helpful. So I started doing that with her, and her second one was a breeze. So that's real help. That will help you, or it'll help you. I guess I don't know who I'm thinking of. Okay, so suction and hold, 30 seconds, then you're going to try and move up, okay? So going back to if you can't click, you have to figure out how to click, because you have to also know how to suction, okay? So they're kind of one and the same to me, just different mechanics, really. The reason you have to be able to suction is because the first step of a swallow is an intraoral suction, so you have to be able to do that. But if you can't click, but you can suction, then your click is that suction. So you just work at it for a little while. It is very helpful, you guys, to do your exercises with a hand mirror, because myofunctional therapy works to build strength, coordination. It works to build new neuromuscular connections that are between your brain and your tongue. So you might think you know what you're doing. You might think you know that you're doing something right, but your brain has a different idea, or it doesn't get it. So I always tell my clients, most of their exercises, especially when they're new, they have to watch themselves in the mirror. And part of the learning process is so that they can watch themselves in the mirror and identify, right, ooh, how do I do that again to do it right? Or to be able to look in the mirror and say, wrong, 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 right. Ooh, that was right. How do I get that again? So you're retraining the brain to be able to do all of this stuff. So while it might be easy for you to think about, or I demonstrate it and it seems easy, that's why watching yourself in the mirror to make sure that you're doing it correct is helpful. And clicking, suction, and hold is one of those ones where I ask, Are you practicing it in the mirror? Okay. I think that is it for those 4. Let's talk about the exercise, one elastic hold. This is what I'm talking about, that you don't have the pieces to be able to do. But I'm gonna give you some ideas. This is the passive exercise. So this just starts teaching the tongue to park where it needs to park, okay? So this little green elastic is an ortho elastic. If you're lucky enough to have access to those, then perfect. You also can buy little hair ties at Walmart, Target, wherever. I've seen them in big bags. So I've heard of people getting those there. So you can try and get something like this. This is a clean toothbrush. I reuse mine. I just put them on the end of the toothbrush. So people are always interested to know why I always travel with this weird toothbrush. So that's an option. So I'm going to teach it correct, assuming that you can get your hands on an elastic like that. And then if you can't, then the alternative that I recommend is something to hold on the spot there, okay? I like this thin gum, just taking a slice and just taking a little piece. You don't need to do anything with it because it's just holding there, okay? So just taking a little piece, you could put it on your finger, and then I guess it's kind of hard to see that with my lighting, and then you'd put it on your tongue, not your finger. But first, let me show you one elastic hold, how I teach it when I have elastics. The whole point of this is to train the tongue where to go, okay? So you'll take the elastic, put it on the tip of your tongue, raise the tongue to the spot. And relax, okay? I have to take it out so I can talk. So that's where it hangs out. So I start assigning this once a day for 15 minutes. Here's the kicker. You got to do it in one lump, one time, and then you got to keep the tongue on the spot. You have to use the elastic. So a lot of people who don't have access to elastics or whatever, they'll say, well, I'll just do it. And I can tell you that you will fail doing it. And this is one of the reasons that I had to develop practice expectations for those lovely ladies who were giving me a challenge, because that was one of the exercises that they didn't want to follow rules with. They wanted skin on skin. And the problem is, if you hold your arm up, you're eventually going to drop it down. But if you put a blueberry pie on it, you're going to pay attention a little bit more. And that's what I found with the elastic. If you have the elastic on the spot, you're sandwiching it between the tip of the tongue and the spot. So you're paying attention, you've got something pushing. You don't have to be pushing it like you're pushing on peanut butter rub, but you have to be cognizant and aware that it's there. The other thing that I want you to do when it comes time to swallow, because certainly in 15 minutes you're going to have to swallow, you have to keep the tongue on the spot, okay? So start forcing the back of the tongue to work. Many of you have tongue ties and the posterior blade doesn't work at all. So it's going to feel weird and you might feel clunky. You might hear, that's okay. I just want you to push on the spot, because remember, that correct swallow, you guys, the tongue's not coming forward. It's not going out. It shouldn't push anywhere. It pushes up, really. So every single time I swallow, my tongue is on the spot and it just kind of pushes at that trajectory, because you start with a suction. Your swallow starts with a suction. And so just paying attention to how you swallow when you have that elastic there is helpful. So that piece of gum, if you're going to just hold something here, the reason that I love this thin piece of gum is I've had some people do small M&Ms, like those mini M&Ms. I've had somebody do a grain of rice. I've had somebody do like a mint. A mint was too thick and the M&M was too thick. I want something really small so it feels like how it should be, because the rest of the time your tongue should be on the spot too. So when you get it on the spot, you relax, teeth gently come together, relax the face. When you swallow also, you should have no funny business going on here, okay? Remember, the swallow is going to start here and it's going to go in this wave, but as you swallow, you should only see it here. You shouldn't see anything going on here, or else you're going to have all of that damage from pursed lip swallowing. They're called walrus creases, and who wants a walrus crease? Also, I've had clients, I might have talked about them as I did the lessons, that look like they've smoked forever, and it's just because they used their lips and their cheeks to swallow to change that pressure. So you have to have an intraoral suction to initiate and start the correct swallow to pull the food. So that's what I want you to pay attention to as you swallow. That there's no struggle, no head tipping, no chicken necking, no funky stuff with the face. Okay, takes time, so you got to watch yourself in the mirror and be very critical. Okay, so that is it with the lesson.